What is going on, guys? It is a Wednesday night. I am the Solomonster. Thank you for tuning in to the weekly Dynamite review. See, it was a very busy weekend, and I knew it was going to catch up to me. Had a lot going on Friday at the House of Glory show, and I had something to do on Saturday, and then we had the podcast on Sunday, and we had the pay-per-view, and went to bed at 4 a.m. on Monday, and so now I am sick. I knew this was going to happen. And tonight we had 3 hours of AEW, but I wasn't sticking around until the end of hour 3. But this was the post pay-per-view episode of Dynamite, and in the past, AEW tends to drop the ball. When it comes to these post pay-per-view shows, they just end up not being very exciting. And so what Tony sometimes does is he'll load them up maybe with some big matches, and it's very wrestling heavy, and you can get some really good matches out of it, but you want to have a good mix. You want to have some good matches, you want to have some exciting television, you want to have some storyline developments, and they just don't always do a good job of that coming out of these pay-per-views. This was not a bad episode. This was not like an offensively bad episode. It just wasn't very exciting. It wasn't the best, most exciting follow-up to what I thought was the best pro wrestling pay-per-view or event period that I've seen of the entire year. And it was to me anyway, pretty average fare as far as Dynamite goes. We had Mark Davis and Jack Perry in the main event. Now look, I like Mark Davis. I'm a Mark Davis fan, and so it's cool to see him getting all of this television time. Should he be wrestling Jack Perry in the main event of AEW Dynamite? No. But that was our main event. Now, technically, again, there was another hour of the show. But as far as Dynamite goes, that was the main event. They ended up having what I thought was actually a really strong match. I mean, I enjoyed the match from a wrestling perspective. And Mark Davis is moving on to the next round. He's going to be stepping into the ring with Will Ospreay. And then we had in the other men's Owen Hart tournament match, we had Claudio Castagnoli against Brody King, which is a match that we've seen twice before in the C2. So this was effectively the rubber match here between these two men. And Brody King is moving on, which I think a lot of people probably figured. He's moving on to wrestle Swerve Strickland. That'll be taking place in the next round. I was more interested in two things. What would the follow-up be with Kevin Knight coming out of what we saw at the end of the pay-per-view, where he did a UFO splash to Darby Allin? And what would the follow-up be with MJF, who just won back the AEW World Championship? And I was pretty unimpressed with what they did in both cases here. We did get a Kevin Knight promo. We at least got an explanation for why he did what he did. It wasn't any sort of blow-away big heel promo or anything like that. But we did get an explanation from him. With MJF, they actually lined up two challengers for him. And we already know what his first title defense is going to be. It's going to be taking place on Dynamite next week. And I may have a difference of opinion with people who think that, he shouldn't be defending the championship. That doesn't bother me so much. Just because if he's not on the show defending the championship, it makes it more likely that, people will, complain about how nothing important ever happens on these shows, or where's the excitement? Well, you're going to have MJF defending the World Championship, and I can't argue with that. So he's going to be defending the title next week against Roosh, and Mark Briscoe showed up, and he wants a piece of MJF as well. Now, storyline-wise, it makes sense in that you have somebody in Mark Briscoe who actually got a win on pay-per-view last year over MJF. And now MJF is once again the world champion. Mark Briscoe says, you know what? I have a win over you, and so I want a title match, right? Okay, sure. Not the most exciting challengers to line up immediately coming out of this pay-per-view because they just haven't been built up enough, frankly, for me to get terribly excited about it. Roosh is a great wrestler. Of course he's a great wrestler. Mark Briscoe. Hey, I don't got anything against Mark Briscoe. But I can't sit here and tell you that these are the most exciting challengers that they have come up with for MJF. But look, I guess in their mind, they've got time to kill before they get to whoever that next big challenger is going to be, whether it's Forbidden Door or whenever that's going to be. I don't know what they're doing at Forbidden Door. I don't know if it's going to be the AEW champion against the IWGP champion. I don't fucking know what they're going to do. And they didn't give any indication tonight of what they're going to do either. But Forbidden Door still a month away. So that was the gist of Dynamite, a show that was kind of there. It wasn't any great shakes, but I wouldn't sit here and call it a terrible show. Believe me, I mean, there have been episodes of Dynamite that were so boring, I just can't get into anything that's going on. I wouldn't put this in that category, but, coming off the high of Double or Nothing, this sort of brought things down back to earth. In a way that I wish there was a little more excitement on this show. But this is your AEW Dynamite review. It is May 27th, 2026. And do you realize the significance of May 27th? May 27th, 1996. On this very day. How many years ago? Is that 30 years ago? Scott Hall walked out on WCW Monday Nitro for the first time and said, "You want a war? You got it." And the NWO storyline kicked off 30 fucking years ago. This was no this was no NWO era episode of Nitro tonight, but that is a historical fact that I feel like I would have been out of place not mentioning that here. 30 years. I remember watching that live, actually. And just wondering to myself, what the fuck is going on here? But I guess that was the point, right? To get people asking that very question. What the fuck is going on here? Is this real? Is this not real? Anyway, this is your Dynamite review. Thank you guys, those of you who are with me, for hanging out. Again, we tend to look at Wednesdays as sort of the dead night because that's just the way it is. Sadly. But those of you who are with me, you guys are the OGs, and I appreciate it. So if you got a super chat to send in, by all means, go ahead and do so. It certainly helps me out. It helps the channel out. If you got a question or a comment, I'll be reading them a little bit later on. Hit the like button as well. We're going to bring up the wheel. I don't know if we're going to be doing this tonight, but we spin the wheel here to see if we can do our Be the Booker segment later on. I know many of you are big fans of. So let's find out here what the goal is. Good luck with that. We need 515 likes to do Be the Booker. We're at 170. Good luck. That's all I have to say. We look to SmackDown on Friday. Don't let me forget, by the way, I have to give you an update on SmackDown and when I'm going to be going live on Friday, because they're in Barcelona, Spain, so we're heading into this international period where some of the streams are not going to be airing in their usual times. But they opened the show tonight with a segment backstage that was filmed at Double or Nothing on Sunday. And Renee caught up with Will Ospreay after his win over Samoa Joe. I got news on Samoa Joe, by the way, a little bit later on. But after his win over Samoa Joe, saying he was over the moon about moving on in the Owen Hart tournament. And so on his way walking into the trainer's room, he walks into the room, and who does he run into? He runs into Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega is in there. He's sitting there. He's got an ice pack on his neck. And this is the second time now that we have had a backstage segment, a meeting of the minds here between Omega and Ospreay. Makes me wonder. So Omega wanted to address the elephant in the room, that being the Death Riders. He said his worry is that Ospreay can't trust them because they've hurt them both before. And he questions, why didn't you just come to me? Why'd you have to go to them for? If you would have just come to me, I could have helped you out. And Ospreay said, well, you're never around. Even though you say you feel better now than you felt in a long time, you're just never around. And Omega said, look, I can't be there every week. And Ospreay said, why? Kenny told him, he doesn't recover the same way as he used to. He's not the same guy he used to be. Neither is Will. And Omega also, he mentioned he had his shot at the World Championship previously and didn't work out. Omega said, look, I'm not telling you not to trust the Death Riders. I'm just telling you to be careful. Even though that sure sounds like he's telling him exactly that. He's telling him not to trust these people. So Jon Moxley walks in and he says, that's good advice. He said, we all have our skeletons, don't we? And he hands Ospreay an ice pack and he tells him the truck is outside. And then he leaves. So Omega said, look, I'll always be there for you. And then Ospreay told Omega, don't give up on that world title. And Omega said, you too. There is something about seeing Omega, Ospreay, and Moxley all together in like a backstage segment like this that I like. And I think we need to see more of these types of segments here with some of the bigger names. This was another good segment with these two. And it's the first time where I sat here as I'm watching them sitting next to each other. And they're conversing and they're talking about the world title. And I'm thinking, holy shit, they're actually going to take the title off MJF before we even get to Wembley. And they may well go with Kenny Omega against Will Ospreay. That may be our main event this year at All In. That's the impression I got from this. I didn't even feel that way after the first time they chatted backstage all those weeks ago, even though I guess that was the first seed that was being planted. I just don't see how anybody could watch this and come away from it thinking anything else. That it feels like they're going to do another title change, and instead of doing MJF Ospreay again at Wembley, because we have seen it once before at Wembley, it wasn't for the world title, that Tony really wants to do Omega and Ospreay, which would still be a huge match. Totally different dynamic, because then it's two baby faces, two of the most popular baby faces, if not the two most popular baby faces in the entire company. But still a very different, dynamic there. But you also have to think about this. They just announced a brand new pay-per-view. And this was rumored for a while. They made it official the other day. I believe it's a Sunday, July 26th. They are doing the first ever AEW Redemption pay-per-view. And they're holding that pay-per-view, I believe, at the Bell Center in Montreal. So they're going to be in Canada. Now remember, when Kenny Omega had his title match a few months ago against MJF, that was in Vancouver at Dynasty. And he lost on that show. He failed to win the championship. And so now it just feels like the pieces are falling into place for Redemption to be the time that Kenny Omega finds his redemption in Canada, because they're back in Canada again, and this time he wins the title. I just can't see them running that match back again if that's what they end up doing, and having Kenny drop 2 straight to MJF. I just don't see that happening. And then you think about the name of the pay-per-view, the location of the pay-per-view. Unless the idea is that they're going to do an Omega Ospreay match on that show, but I don't see what the point of that would even be. What would the point of that be? There would be nothing on the line in that match. If, Ospreay's going to win the Owen, and so he's going to end up in this sort of weird lame duck period. I mean, to me, it just makes far more sense on that Redemption show to build to an Ospreay-Moxley match, because that's where the story is. And if MJF is going to defend that title against anybody, it sure feels like it's going to be Kenny Omega to me. I don't know. I think that's a mistake. I think MJF and Ospreay is the way to go for London. The newly healed TNT champion, Kevin Knight. He was out to the ring. First up here on this show to address why he did what he did to Darby Allin on Sunday. And they were in Philadelphia tonight. And the Philly fans, always very respectful. They were serenading him with chants of, "Fuck you, Kevin." Since Sunday, he says that he's heard one word and one word only over and over again. Why? Why, Kevin, why? And he said, listen, I told Darby Allin not to let the Jet down. I love how he talks about himself in the third person, just like The Rock. The Rock says, the Jet says, he let the Jet down. And not only did he let the Jet down, and he told him not to in that promo on Dynamite last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, he goes, don't let the Jet down. Don't let all these people down, and don't let the Jet down. And that's exactly what Darby did. He blew it. He said, just like the Sixers did against the Knicks. And that got him some mega heat here. He says he's not trusting the process anymore. He says, who's the last man that MJF found himself looking up at? It was him. It was Kevin Knight. So he took matters into his own hands. It should have been him in the main event on Sunday, but instead he watched from the bench. He was on the sidelines. Does he look like a bench player to you? He says, is he not a human highlight when he's in the ring? He isn't here to take part in AEW. He's here to take over the whole damn company. And he trusted Darby. And when he got there, Darby told him, don't waste time. Don't waste any time. So when he saw that Darby didn't get the job done, he wasted no time and he left Darby in a pool of his own blood. So this brought out his tag team partner, Speedball Mike Bailey. So Speedball, I don't even know what he was wearing. He was wearing some sort of jacket that he looked like a character out of a Star Wars movie. He walks to the ring and he says he hears what Knight is saying. But he knows him. They work so well as a team because they want to be the best. But he says Knight is impatient. He gets ahead of himself and he makes mistakes. What he did to Darby was a mistake. But we can fix this, he says. If he apologizes and owns up to what he did, they can make things right. And he offers his hand, and Knight thinks about what he just heard. The crowd starts chanting, say you're sorry. And Knight kind of goes in for the handshake, but he brushes him. He shoulder tackles him, but he shoulder checks. That'd be kind of funny. He shoulder checked him, and he made like he was leaving. And then he immediately turned back around, and he blasted Bailey in the head with the microphone. And he acted like he was going to leave, but then he came back, and then he dropped Bailey with a rock bottom to close the segment. As far as his promo goes, there wasn't a whole lot to it. I think at least we got the explanation. The explanation, at least, it goes back to that promo from television last week. And I've been saying this. I said, he's giving off very heelish tendencies. And if you were going to turn any member of Jet Speed here, you turn Kevin Knight. You don't turn Mike Bailey because Speedball's not a heel. It's not going to work. So if you were going to turn one of them, they turn the right guy. And I think it's a role that he can grow into. I mean, he's not what I would call like a great promo where he's going out there and it's like, oh my God, this guy's a revelation with a live mic in his hand. He's not. But this wasn't terrible. I think he got his point across. I think he has a certain confidence and a certain swagger to him. It's just going to be a case where you got to just get him out there in front of a live crowd more and more. And as time goes on and you give him that exposure on the microphone, you put that mic in his hand, as long as he has something interesting to talk about, I think he'll get better and better the more he does it. You got to put him in those situations. But as far as like this promo itself, it wasn't anything, blow away. But a match with Speedball is where I figured they were going first. You kind of have to because Darby is taking a break. I think Darby's getting married in the next few weeks, I believe. So he's going to be gone for a while. And to me, that's your London match. I don't know how long Darby will be out for. You can keep him out for a little while. He doesn't have to rush back. Because when you think about, London in a couple of months and, well, what's Darby going to do on that show? Well, you've already set up a challenger for him. You've set up a grudge match between him and Kevin Knight. There's really no need to do that match before then. So Kevin Knight's direction seems pretty clear to me anyway for the next, I would say, 2 or 3 months. I think in your mind, you could pretty much map out where they're going with him. Now we have Chris Jericho against Ricochet, and in this match, everybody is banned from ringside. So Jericho, he later in the match escaped the fireman's carry on the apron. He dropped Ricochet with a Death Valley driver. Later on, he got a Walls of Jericho applied. Ricochet fought out of it, and he got Aubrey Edwards distracted at one point, and without her seeing it, he gave Jericho a low blow. And then he delivered a Rico salt, and he covered him, and he got a close near fall out of it. So Ricochet went for a 630 splash, or a 630 senton, off the top. Crashed and burned. Jericho delivered a code breaker. Ricochet kicked out. Then came the Judas effect, and then Jericho hit the lion salt, and he got the win. I like how they've really... They focused so heavily on the lion salt that they were able to use it as a believable finish here. So I'll give him credit for that. When the match was over, Tommaso Ciampa ran in. He blindsided Jericho, and he choked him with his T-shirt. He lowered the knee pad, and he blasted Jericho with a running knee strike. I thought that Jericho and Ricochet, they had a solid match here. Ricochet has to slow it down for Jericho. Jericho can't keep up with somebody like him if he's working at his normal speed. But it was nice to have no interference, from the gates of agony. There wasn't too much bullshit. I mean, outside of the low blow spot, I guess. There really wasn't any bullshit in this match. So it was solid. And now Jericho moves on, I guess, from one bald guy to another. Because now he's moving on to Ciampa. I think that could be a fun one. I like Ciampa, so don't really have a whole lot else to say about this. Thankfully, we have blown this off. The Jericho Ricochet stuff is now finished. I thought it seemed pretty finished to me as of Stadium Stampede, but now it is officially done, and Jericho can move on. And we go backstage to Andrade El Idolo, who was by himself, said that now that the stupid Stadium Stampede is over, he can focus on winning the AEW World title and beating MJF. He goes, does MJF think he's better than a real Latino man? How you know? How you know? Really leaning into that. But I saw this and I said, there it is. There's your Arena Mexico match. I've been saying it for months. I mean, you've heard me say this over and over again. It's the perfect place and the perfect time to do this match. Grand Slam Mexico. Now, last year they did Grand Slam Mexico in June. So this is the only thing that might work against it. Because apparently the Spanish announce team during Dynamite tonight announced that Grand Slam Mexico is coming back, but it's coming back in August. And let's just say that Kenny Omega does beat MJF to win the AEW World title at Redemption. That would mean MJF wouldn't be the champion come Arena Mexico. Assuming it will be in Arena Mexico. I can't imagine they would have it anywhere else. So that's the only thing potentially working against it. Hopefully they don't take the title off MJF and they can do MJF and Andrade. And I just think in that venue on that show, and they've been teasing it and kind of hinting at it now for a few months, it's the perfect place to do it. Hopefully we get to see it. They had what they called a Superstation Showcase 4-way with Orange Cassidy, Brian Cage, Lio Rush, and Roosh. I don't care what anybody says. I really don't. I'm glad they're giving more time to the Lio Rush Blackheart character. It's different. He's obviously very committed to it. It's very wacky. We don't have too much stuff like this on this show, which is probably why it stands out more. And frankly, I don't need anything more than this. If we had an army of people like Lio Rush doing this type of character, it would fucking suck. And if you don't like it, that's cool. But when he was on Dynamite initially several weeks ago, I said, well, this is cool that they're putting, I think it was when he wrestled Brody King. And I said, well, this is cool that he's actually getting time on Dynamite here, but it's going to take more than just one appearance. And I do think it's a character or a gimmick that can get over in like a babyface way. But you gotta commit to it, which means you got to give him television time, and not just on Collision every now and then or in Ring of Honor, but you got to have him on Dynamite. So he even got a little cameo during Stadium Stampede at the pay-per-view, and then they had him on Dynamite tonight. So I like what he's doing. I want to see where it goes. Probably nowhere. But I do think it can get over. I mean, the fans even tonight, the way they were reacting to it, were kind of into it. Late in the match with Cassidy outside, Rocky Romero and Lance Archer appeared. Archer ate an orange punch, and then Jake Doyle showed up. Totally randomly, Jake Doyle shows up for the first time in months, since January, I believe, is when he tore his bicep. And he blindsided Cassidy. Roderick Strong showed up. He fought off with Doyle, and then Archer carried Cassidy out with them. So now, all of a sudden, this four-way is now down to a singles match. And it is down to, of all people, Roosh and Rush. Because we got Leo Rush in there, and Roosh doesn't know quite what to make of this character. So Leo, he managed a springboard stunner and a misdirect spear for a near fall. And that's all he would get, because Roosh came back with the bull's horns for the win. Not long after this. I mean, let's be honest here. Okay, once it came down to these two men, you kind of knew who was going over here. So we would find out later in the show, though, as far as, you may look at this match and go, well, why did we get this match? What is this Superstation showcase? What was the purpose? What was the point of it? Well, the point of it was, based on what we saw later in the show, they wanted to set up Roosh for a World Championship match on the show next week. So they wanted to give him a big win. That was the purpose. That was literally the only purpose of this match here. Meanwhile, you got Jake Doyle running out there making his return, and it was a complete afterthought. He just shows up and immediately fights off to the back. No fanfare, no nothing. It's good to see him back. I wasn't even really thinking about him. I guess I just sort of assumed he would be out for a little bit longer, but now he's back. I think that pretty much outside of Wardlow means that all of the injured members of the Callis family, I believe, are back. I believe, right? Because there were a bunch of them that were injured, and I think they're all pretty much back, except Wardlow. And even Wardlow supposedly was spotted backstage visiting at Double or Nothing. So I don't know if he's cleared and waiting for creative, or if he's not cleared yet. I don't know. He's been gone a while, though. I have to think he's probably physically ready to come back. Maybe they just haven't figured out. Oh, Josh Alexander. See, this whole fucking family is so big. I missed one. All right. So Josh Alexander, I forgot about Josh Alexander. You can't blame me, though. There's 27 different members of this family. Well, maybe Josh Alexander will be back soon, too. When did he get hurt? It was only a few months ago, I think. But look, I mean, as far as Jake Doyle is concerned, I don't know what you do with him, because I was starting to dig the tag team. Davis and Doyle. I said, okay, that's a solid addition to the tag team scene. And then Doyle rather, got hurt. And Davis has actually gotten a singles push, and now he's the national champion. He's in the Owen. He's actually doing stuff. So I wouldn't just throw him back into a tag team just yet. But if you can't find something meaningful for someone like Jake Doyle to do, which, I mean, I said that about TNA. You can't find something for a guy like that to do, then you're doing something wrong. I'm sure they could find something for him to do. And then eventually, if they want to put Davis and Doyle back together, that's fine. But Davis has his own thing going on right now. I wouldn't fuck with that. Renee was standing by backstage, waiting for a word with MJF, who walked in, was literally dragging the AEW World title across the floor. And then he just dropped it on the floor because he has his Triple B back over his shoulder. Kevin Knight walked in, and MJF thanked him for what he did on Sunday. He said he knows why he did it, because he wanted to show respect to the biggest star in the entire company. He goes, that meant a lot to him, and he thinks He's got a bright future ahead of him. So Knight told him, look, I didn't do it for you. I did it because Darby blew an opportunity that belonged to me. And one day I will beat you for that world title. And MJF told him, goals are good. Said, see you around. So MJF exited, and then Knight turned around. He ran into Kyle O'Reilly. He ran into Kyle Fletcher, who I thought I'm hallucinating here. It's the 103-degree fever. So he turns around, then he runs into Kyle Fletcher, who told him, nice belt you got there, Kev. Don Callis walked in. He asked him, what's that nickname that you've got for yourself? And Knight says, Jet 2 belts. And Callis told him, well, Jet 2 belts. If you ever want to get serious about that, you know who to talk to. Me and Kyle are around. And off they went. Now, Renee, after a break, was backstage with the Brawling Birds, Jamie Hayter and Alex Windsor. Hayter says that she's got to take Tekla's... She had the chance to take Tekla's head off on Sunday. Saturday. Sunday. I don't know what day of the week it is. So she's happy about that. She's not happy that she didn't win the world title, but she at least got to take Tekla's head off. And in due time, she will get her shot again. So Alex Windsor then piped up. She said that her heart goes out to Willow Nightingale, who was forced to pull out of the Owen with an injury, and she had to forfeit her TBS championship. And she was really looking forward to wrestling her. She says that the next time when you're healthy, you and me will throw down and we'll have a match. Now, Renee asked her, you're going to be facing off with a wild card in the tournament instead. How do you prepare for something like that? And Windsor says that she grew up getting the piss beaten out of her on a daily basis, which sounds horrible. So she's prepared herself for everything. And she isn't walking this path alone because her Billy is also going for the world title in the Owen. So the both of them are going to win, and the two of them are both going to go to Wembley in August and win the world championship. I hope not. I hope that's not the plan. She hopes the wild card has skin in the game, though. And then Hayter pipes up again and says, one way or another, the Birds will end up on top. Fuck the Birds. I hate the Birds. I don't hate these two, but I hate the Birds. Especially on the Van Wyck. Fuck them. So that wild card match in the Owen is going to be taking place on Dynamite next week. In case you were wondering when that match is going to be happening. MJF was up next, the brand new AEW World Champion. As I have a coughing fit, hang tight, guys. I do not want to cough into the microphone. It is unprofessional to cough into the microphone. So when you're a pro, you have a cough button. Anyway, bear with me here. I was talking about MJF, the AEW World Champion, for a third time, by the way. So he comes out like fucking King Mabel or the Macho King Randy Savage. He's on his throne. He's got four jabrones who are carrying the throne underneath him, and they carry him to the ramp. They have the steps there, so he steps off. And he is literally dragging it's Darby's world title. It's the regular AEW world title with the black strap. And he is dragging it down to the ring. He goes up on the apron. There's a garbage can down below. And he drops the title into the garbage can. So this really does feel like Nitro from 1996. Although I think that happened in 95. But we're going old school here. So MJF says that if you're looking for Darby Allin, he's hanging his head in shame after being beaten for the dreaded, the world championship by the dreaded headlock takeover. He's a three-time champion. Professional wrestling, he says, has been around since the 1800s. And since then, only 3 men have been world champion 3 times before the age of 30. And he hoped that these stupid schmucks appreciate just how great he is here in real time. Mark Briscoe walks down to the ring. And he gets inside. He goes, Friedman. He says, looking at you standing in this city, you're a stranger in a strange place. Says, see, they're in Philly. And the people here, they're hard-nosed. They're grinders. Some of the toughest people in the world live here. And you stick out like a sore thumb. Said, you're so self-absorbed, you tell us that we aren't on your level and that you're better than us, and you believe it. Well, he says that it wasn't that long ago that I pinned your ass in the middle of this ring. Therefore, he didn't want to beat around the bush. He wants a shot at the AEW World Championship. And that is true, by the way. Tables and tacks. Last year, he did beat him. MJF says, no. Says AEW is not just a sport. He says it's business. And logistically speaking, it was bad enough that an emo freak like Darby held this belt. You think that somebody like you should be sniffing this title? He's doing Mark a favor because there are levels to this shit. And unfortunately for you, you aren't on the level of the devil. So he goes to leave the ring. And he's heading up the ramp. He's backing up the ramp. So I'm waiting for somebody to come out. And sure enough, here comes Roosh. So he comes out and he gets up in MJF's face. And he goes, you wanted, to be a fighting champion. He goes, it's too funny. He's a chicken farmer, and he's pointing at Briscoe in the ring. You're a chicken shit. He goes, I faced you before, and I almost beat you. And now I want your title, because when you mess with the bull, you get the horns. So MJF says that Roosh thinks he's funny because he cracks jokes and he's bilingual. So listen up, senor. You have good hair, you have a good body, you're on a win streak, and you have a marketable catchphrase. Do you want a shot tonight? He's teasing that he's going to give him a title shot tonight. And Roosh he's ready for it. He's all psyched up. And MJF goes, psych. Goes, he'll face him next week for the World Championship, not here in Philly. And that was the gist of the promo there. And so they have set up a championship match now for next week. He'll be defending against Roosh. We know that. We know that he's going to be defending against Briscoe. Right? It's only a matter of when. So that match is coming up. And while they're very talented, and it's nice to see Roosh, I've said this about Lio Rush, it's nice to see Roosh getting more FaceTime on Dynamite, where in the past, some of these guys, they couldn't buy airtime on this show. I don't have an issue with that. I don't have an issue with cycling in people who we wouldn't ordinarily see on Dynamite. But they just haven't built them up well enough for me to sit here and get all excited about the fact that they're wrestling for a world championship. I can't. They're not the most attractive opponents to be throwing in there with MJF, right? But if they want to do these matches, I'm sure the matches themselves will be very good, and I'm looking forward to seeing that at least. But it just feels like we're clearly buying time until we find out who that next big challenger is going to be, and who knows? Maybe it is Kenny Omega at Redemption at the end of July, and we're just going to be doing this between now and then, where we got Roosh next week, and then Mark Briscoe will come after that, and then somebody else will step up and say that they want to crack at the title. And I talked about this at the beginning of the year, how refreshing it was that we had all of these potential challengers lined up for MJF at the time, right? We had Swerve, and you had Hangman, and you had Kenny, and you had Brody King, and you had Andrade was starting to poke his head above ground and talk about wanting a shot at the world title. And it's like the world title scene felt invigorated in this company. So I don't have an issue with people wanting to go after the champion. They should. Every fucking person on that roster should want a shot at the AEW world title. But coming out of the pay-per-view, what do you have MJF doing? He's having a celebration. Okay. Well, okay, sure. We've seen this before. And you set up potentially Mark Briscoe and Roosh as title challengers for MJF. All right. Not the most exciting thing in the world. Now, as far as him defending his championship, just kind of the more broad idea that, we have MJF wrestling on TV and defending his title. Yeah, it's funny to me when I hear people, bitching about this, because it wasn't all that long ago that at least some of these same people might be found bitching about the fact that we never get to see MJF wrestle on TV. It was actually very rare, and it's still somewhat rare, but it was even rarer back then that you would see MJF even wrestling on television. And that was by design. They wanted to keep him as almost like a special attraction. But if you look at the number of matches that he was having back then, Wasn't very many of them. It would be the equivalent of like one of these part-time big names that kind of come in for a cup of coffee in WWE and then go away and come back months later. It's the closest thing probably that, AEW had to something like that at the time. So being able to watch MJF wrestle more often on television isn't something that I'm against. I'm all for it. It just so happens that he's the world champion. So yes, he's going to be defending the world title. I don't think he's going to be defending it every week. He's not Darby Allin. It wouldn't even make sense. Why would he want to defend the world title every week? But if they're going to have him defend it next week, and then 2 or 3 weeks later, he's going to have another title defense, great. What's so bad about that? As long as they're reasonably credible challengers. This is not an open challenge where fucking Ace Austin is going to come out and challenge for the AEW World Championship. Or Lio Rush. And again, I like the gimmick, but Lio Rush is not going to do a fucking creature crawl down to the ring and challenge for the World Championship. That's not what we're talking about here. If they want to do MJF and Mark Briscoe at least has a case to be made because he beat him in a pay-per-view match last year. I think that was probably the last time the two of them wrestled was tables and tacks, and Briscoe beat him. You want to get an MJF Mark Briscoe title match out of it, that's fine. Briscoe has credibility that certain other people on the roster may not have. So that's the only thing. You want to make sure that you're putting him in there with reasonably big names and credible challengers. And then I don't have an issue with it. Because it helps make the shows a little more interesting and exciting when you know you got a world title match lined up. CM Punk. Look at CM Punk earlier this year. We had something similar with Punk where Punk, and this is why Raw really feels like it took a bit of a nosedive after WrestleMania because Punk hasn't been around. Punk was the world champion. We had Punk on television in the span, I think, of a month. 4 or 5 weeks. Defending the championship on television. Against Braun Breaker. Against AJ Styles. Against Finn Balor. And it was exciting, and they had really good matches. But it added a certain excitement that the show would not have otherwise had. So I don't object to it here. Yeah, it's a little bit different than what Darby was doing because he was defending that every fucking week, and I don't think that's what we're gonna get here. So I don't mind seeing MJF defend the title on these shows. And if he wasn't, some of these same people would be bitching about the fact that we don't get any matches that have meaning or value or big matches on these shows. Yeah, well, you're gonna get the fucking world champion defending his title. It don't get no bigger than that. Believe me, I'm looking on some of these shows for some real excitement too. And I'll take it where I can get it. So I don't object to any of that. Now, after Rush and Andrade, or Rush and Briscoe, I think it should be Andrade. It's just a matter of when they want to do that match. And then from there, we'll find out if Kenny is the direction. It sure felt that way from the opening segment on the show that Kenny is going to get a rematch. He gets that rematch, we're going to have a new champion. And then the bigger question becomes, what the hell does MJF do in London if he's not in the main event? I don't know. They had a vignette here where they showed the Jurassic Express bus, which, by the way, somebody in Philly posted a photo on their social media. They were driving down whatever the highway or whatever road it was, and I guess they were going to the show, and the bus was on the road. Like, he took a picture of the bus. He just so happened to be in the same location as the bus, which I just thought was kind of funny. It says fucking Jurassic Express on the front of it. So they had a vignette here where Jack Perry was cutting a promo on Mark Davis for his main event match tonight. And Luchasaurus was driving the bus. So then he stops the bus and he opens the door and Luchasaurus points to something. And Perry looks outside and he goes, "Oh, no. He goes, "I got a match tonight." And Luchasaurus is like, "Nope." And so what it was is he wanted him to run the steps to the Rocky statue. So we got a training vignette. And he was running the steps to the Rocky statue. He's jogging around the streets of Philadelphia with the bus driving very slowly behind him and honking him. He's drinking raw eggs. It's like a training vignette. It's supposed to be funny. We had another quarterfinal match in the Owen Hart tournament, the men's Owen Hart tournament. And this one was with Brody King and Claudio Castagnoli. The winner would advance to wrestle Swerve Strickland in the next round because he beat Bandito on Sunday. Renee was ringside before the match, and she mentioned that both men had split wins with each other in the Continental Classic in 2023 and 2024. So this was effectively the rubber match here. And the majority of this, it was really just like forearms and strikes and uppercuts. They were just kind of beating the hell out of each other, and they seemed to be losing steam as we got closer to the end of the match here. But what we got, I thought, was solid. Brody wanted a Gonzo bomb. Claudio slid out. He tried a springboard. He got forearmed out of midair, and Brody charged into a pop-up uppercut, stayed vertical, and then landed a huge lariat, and he collapsed on top of Claudio, and he got the win. So we are getting Brody King and Swerve Strickland in a rematch from Revolution, which Swerve won, and he's going to win again because we're getting it in the semifinals. The winner of that match would then go on to the finals of the Owen. Although I don't believe they announced when that match is taking place, so it might not be next week. But after this, we had the arrival of the brand new AEW Tag Team Champions, Adam Copeland and Christian Cage, after an excellent match with FTR, an excellent opener on that Double or Nothing card. And Cage told the crowd to sit down and shut up. So Cope jumped in and goes, whoa. No, you can't say that. You listening to yourself. And Christian said, what? It wasn't like I banged their mothers. They thought about it. He goes, well, actually, maybe I did. And Copeland said, well, the 90s were a pretty crazy time. So Cage then called FTR the toughest tag team they've ever shared the ring with, as Bubba Ray Dudley wept from his office or wherever he watches these shows. So he basically put over FTR and said, you're top guys, but you're not tippy top guys. And he held up the tag team title. So Copeland said that they would do something that they haven't done in 25 years. And they offer to do a 5-second pose. And Christian initially said, no, I'm not doing it. And he said, they don't even do flash photography anymore, which made me, and in that moment, it made me feel very sad because it's true. The passage of time, it's amazing how that used to be a thing and now it's not a thing anymore. It's actually one of the things that I do miss when I go back and I watch even stuff from the Ruthless Aggression era, the Attitude era. You don't even have to go back to the Golden era, the NWO era. The flash bulbs. When there was a big moment or a big finish in a wrestling match or a big return or something, all the flash bulbs going off, right? All the flashes from all the cameras. And you don't have that anymore because who the fuck uses flash photography? Everyone's got their fucking phone and you don't need your flash on. But it made me think man, you know what? That is something that is missing from it just made those moments feel that much more epic. So Cope goes, well, as a matter of fact, he goes, that's not entirely true. So he rolls outside the ring and he goes under and he pulls out a sack of some kind. And he said, 20 years ago, I went to the store and I bought these just for this very scenario. And he emptied it out and it was a bag full of disposable cameras. Another relic from the past. I purchased many a disposable camera. Many wrestling events, in fact. I took my disposable camera. And he starts handing them out to people in the crowd. He's looking specifically for people under the age of 25. Trying to explain to them how it works. You gotta do this. You got the knob over here. Got to turn the flash on. And he's running around. He's gassing himself out, handing out disposable cameras. So eventually he gets back in the ring. And before they could take the 5-second pose, they get attacked from behind. And who is it who attacks them from behind? It is the dogs. Woof woof. Bow wow. David Finlay and Clark Connors. See, if you remember when they debuted in this company, the horrific way that they debuted the dogs, is it any wonder how I can't bring myself to really give much of a shit about this because they've just been booked so fucking weak. Who really cares? But I guess it's a first team for them to beat, so what the fuck, right? So they get attacked from behind by the dogs, and Copeland gets knocked out with a shillelagh shot. They take Christian outside. Now, Christian still has the a cast, I guess, or some sort of brace from the injury that they were selling to his wrist. He still has that on. And Connors is holding the arm down with the brace on it. He's holding it, I think, against the ring steps. And David Finlay has the shillelagh. And he swings it at the arm, and he misses on purpose. He hit the apron instead of hitting the arm because he didn't want to hurt the guy. But it looked fucking horrendous. It was every bit as bad as the one-man concerto that Austin Theory gave to Angelo Dawkins on Raw this past Monday. As if the camera angle wasn't bad enough on that one. This was just as bad. And so then they put Cage's arm underneath the ring steps. And Clark Connors from the apron dove off the apron onto the steps. Christian is selling the shit out of this. He's writhing around just in agony. He's screaming. Connors puts him back in the ring. Finlay blasts Christian in the head with the shillelagh. And then they pick up Copeland one last time to take a spear. And so the tag team champions are left laying. And then Finlay and Connors do the 5-second pose. And you saw some of the flashes from the crowd. If you wanted to see flash photography, this is your segment here because you actually got to see it here at the very end. Look, I mean, the Dogs as the first challengers, whatever, I guess. I mean, They haven't exactly been booked strong, so you'll have to excuse me if I'm not terribly excited about this. I think maybe the weirder part of the whole thing is that this just felt like a write-off. Like they wrote Christian off television. There's no way they didn't just write Christian off television for at least a few weeks. And they had just put the tag team titles on these guys. So if they're writing them off, I'm not really sure what that means as far as when we are going to see them next here on the show. I have no idea. I don't know. Maybe they're going to take a break for a few weeks, and because Copeland Christian should not be defending those titles weekly on television, or I'm not advocating for that. But this just felt like a write-off to me. And they just won the belts. So that was a little strange. Prince Nana was backstage with Swerve Strickland, saying that he's taking the Owen, and then he is heading back to the main event at Wembley Stadium to win back the AEW World Championship. Hey, Heavy, thank you. Yeah, I heard part of Ariel's show today, the Ariel Helwani show, and always appreciate the love that those guys send my way. They were talking about AEW, as a matter of fact. So yes, I did hear that. Thank you. I appreciate it. It is appointment listening every single week. The Uncrowned Wrestling Show, brand new episode up right now. But anyway, so Swerve is talking about how he's going back to the main event at Wembley Stadium, and he's going to get back his AEW World title. And he took credit for Brody King, who he will now be facing in the next round. He took credit for him even breaking into the business and said he was going to do him worse than he did Bandito on Sunday. He said, conflict creates cash and war makes money, and he plans on making a lot of money with Brody King. There was also I don't think this aired anywhere, but I saw it on social media, and it was a very brief video of Kevin Knight walking back. It might have been filmed earlier tonight, just walking backstage, and he walks right past Swerve. Swerve is leaned up against the wall. And Swerve looks at him, and he looks at Swerve. Swerve almost flashes like a grin at him, and Knight keeps walking. Because there's been something between those two. I don't know if that's going to manifest into something with them on television, where they're going to, form some sort of alliance or not. But it was almost like, okay, now you're doing what needs to be done. Like that sort of nod of respect from Swerve. So there could be something there. I'm just saying, there could be something there with those two. Now this right here, I don't know why this was on Dynamite. This should have been on the third hour. This should have been on Collision tonight. This had no business being on this show. We had Tay, Anna Jay, and Ty Conti. They came out for a match against Ava Everett and Allie Katch. And I will say this, it was nice to see Allie getting some FaceTime on AEW television. She's been a veteran on the independent scene for, my God, a long time. And so to see her on TV was pretty cool, even though she didn't really do much of anything here. She didn't have a chance because this thing went, if it went a minute, I would be pretty much, like, yeah, that sounds about right. 60 seconds, 65 seconds, somewhere in that range. That sounds about right. Allie and Ava, they were finished off in short order. They're trying to establish TJ as contenders for Megan Bayne and for Lena Cross. They did have something on the third hour of Collision that I noticed before I went live here, where they were off camera. They were attacked in the back by the women's tag team champions. Riveting stuff. I don't know why this had to be on Dynamite. This Dynamite show, because I'm about to get into the main event here in a second. This Dynamite show went like almost 15 minutes overtime, to the point where as soon as the match was over, they just like within 5 seconds, they rushed off the air. Did this really need to be on this show? We go backstage. Speedball Mike Bailey is very angry. He's very angry because he offered his hand to Kevin Knight and he attacked him instead. He tried to reason with him, but now the time for reasoning is over. Says he wants him in the ring one-on-one. We were never told when that match would be taking place. And that's the natural outgrowth of him doing what he did at the pay-per-view, right? I mean, Speedball's got to be pissed about it. He turns on Speedball. We get a match between the two former members of Jet Speed. I mean, this is just booking 101. So that's not a shock. But we just don't know when the match is going to be taking place. I don't know. Like, for example, like Forbidden Doors on June 28th. I don't think you can wait that long. We'll probably get some sort of themed episode of Dynamite in the next few weeks. I mean, I know they're doing Beach Break that's in July though. But maybe there's going to be some other sort of themed special episode of Dynamite, and I could see that match happening on there. We had the AEW National Champion in the main event. Mark Davis sporting an eye patch after what happened to this poor bastard during Stadium Stampede. One-on-one with Jungle Jack Perry. This was the men's Owen Hart tournament quarterfinal. The eye patch did not stay on his eye for very long. Out on the apron, Davis dropped Perry with a suplex late in the match that caused Perry's shoes to go flying off his feet. Because on the way down, as he was being dropped, his legs hit the ropes and his shoes went flying. And then he tumbled down to the floor outside. Then back in the ring, the socks came off. And Perry was forced to wrestle barefoot. And then so we got some commentary from Taz talking about, well, I know that feeling because early in my career, I used to wrestle barefoot. And that's true when he was the Tasmaniac. He used to wrestle barefoot. That's the early days of Taz. That was a very different Taz. So they made the match for next week. All right, so I guess it's happening next week. There you go. We're getting I presume that's for the TNT. Well, they didn't say it was for the TNT Championship, so I can't say that for sure. I would assume it would be for the TNT title, but okay, so we know Speedball and Kevin Knight is next week, and MJF is defending the world title against Roosh. Good. That sounds like an exciting start to putting a show together for next week. I will never argue or hate on them booking actual like big matches for these shows. You want excitement on these shows, this is where you start. You got to make the matches to get people excited. So anyway, here the match continued. Both men fought up into the corner. Perry hit an avalanche DDT, spiked Davis with it. And then he got a pile driver, Perry did, but he only got 2. So the snare trap got applied. Davis, though, got the rope break. Perry tried for the sacrifice knee, but he got swatted out of midair. They ended up back on the ropes again. Perry wanted a superplex. He lost his balance, though. It looked like he was setting up for maybe a Spanish fly because he stood up on, like Davis is seated on the top rope. And then Perry, instead of planting one foot on one side of him and one foot on the other side of him, he put both feet on the right side of Davis. So that's why I was thinking, okay, Spanish fly. But he kind of lost his footing there. And Davis took advantage. He got him in a pile driver position, and he gave him a spinning avalanche pile driver off the top rope down to the mat. And I saw that, and I said, this better be the fucking finish. And it was. And so Mark Davis is moving on to the next round of the Owen. Now, I said they went way past the top of the hour with this match, so much so that as soon as the bell rang and Davis was announced as the winner, we didn't even hear from the announcers. Excalibur did not even have a chance to do some sort of final hard sell. They laid out, no commentary. They kept the camera on Davis. They put the copyright on the screen, and they were out of there because they were, as Tony Schiavone would say once upon a time, we are desperately out of time. So they clearly went a little over what their allotted time was supposed to be. Well, that's what happens when you put a pointless TJ match on the show. I mean, I don't understand that placement. That's just very weird to me. But then they picked up with Collision. So you got to back out of Dynamite on HBO Max, and then you got to reopen Collision as a separate show, and then boom, Collision is on. Before I talk about that, of the 3 matches that Jack Perry and Mark Davis have now had, this was easily, in my opinion, the best of the bunch. This is the strongest match that the two of them have had. It was hardly a marquee main event, though, to follow up such a big pay-per-view that they just had on Sunday. But they had a really strong match. I think it went through 2 commercial breaks. When they took that second commercial break, I was surprised because they were already over the top of the hour. Now, look, I know that they had a third hour, so you're like, well, so what? They can go over their allotted time because who gives a shit? No, I don't think that's necessarily how it works, though. They still have to get off at a certain time with Dynamite so they can kind of convert everything over to Collision. And somebody will tell me, did Collision tonight air also on TBS? I assumed it all must have aired on TBS, right? They didn't force people, I assume, to switch over to TNT, because I know TNT is normally where Collision would air. But on HBO Max, I have no idea. So maybe somebody can clue me in there. Hey, Brandon Proctor, thank you for 48 months of membership. It says 4 years, and we're getting close to 100K subs. Slowly but surely, because of people like you. Thank you. All TBS? All right, that's what I figured. All TBS, yeah, because normally Collision is a TNT show, so I wasn't sure if they switched it over there. But this ended up being a really strong match. It was not a marquee main event, but it was a very strong match. Davis made more sense for the winner here. It just made more sense, not just for the babyface versus heel dynamic in the next round. You also have the Death Rider dynamic against a member of the Don Callis family. But Mark Davis has a ref stoppage win over Will Ospreay just recently, like 5 or 6 weeks ago. He beat him on Dynamite. So this next match is going to be Ospreay's revenge. He gets to come right back and get one over on Mark Davis. It just made all the sense in the world. So the semis are set in the Owen on the men's side. Tony Khan, he did previously say that Persephone and Cerise matches, their respective matches in the Owen, he's going to hold off on them a little bit until we get into June to give them enough time to heal up from the injuries that they've been dealing with. And then next week, Alex Windsor is going to be wrestling the wild card, who I do not believe is going to be Mercedes Moné. I still maintain that if it was going to be Mercedes, they would have kept the match on the pay-per-view and had Mercedes come back at Double or Nothing. So I don't think it's going to be her. I don't know who it's going to be unless, if they debut somebody like Dakota Kai. But outside of that, I don't know. I don't know who it would be. I know Camille came back recently, and then she just vanished again. Maybe it's her. I don't know. So I'll tell you what I told you at the beginning here. This was not a bad episode of Dynamite. It just was not the most exciting follow-up to what I thought was the best wrestling show that I've seen all year. It's going to be tough to follow up on what we saw on Sunday. But I was hoping for a little bit more, and it ended up being pretty average fare as far as Dynamite goes. Now, I did check out the opening. Yes, I did check out the opening minutes of Collision as I was finishing my notes on the main event. We got a Kyle Fletcher return promo calling out Konosuke Takeshita, and Konosuke Takeshita came out. the brand new international champion, after his match of the year with Okada at Double or Nothing. Yes, that is my match of the year so far, even more than it has usurped Roman Reigns and CM Punk and a couple of other ones that I had. So he comes out there, and he is flanked by the conglomeration. I don't know if he's officially a new member of the conglomeration or if they're just sort of loosely aligned now, but he's got some backup. And he came down to the ring, and the Callis family cleared out, and Takeshita got on the mic, and he called out Fletcher and said he wants Fletcher. So we're obviously going to be getting that match very soon. Will Ospreay wrestled on the show. See, Tony is wising up when they do these 3-hour blocks. You gotta save some of the big names for that third hour. So it pisses me off because I'm getting ready to go live, but it's smart. You want to keep people tuned in. So, he did the follow-up to Takeshita and Fletcher here. We got a trios match where Will Ospreay tagged with Jon Moxley and Pac to take on the Rascals. That happened. I know later on in the show there was a lights-out Philly street fight between Kris Statlander and Hikaru Shida. I did not see that, but I'm sure they closed the show with that. But the other thing that they had here on Collision, we got an Ops promo in the back. Samoa Joe, Hook, Katsuyori Shibata, Anthony Bowens were all there. And Joe said that Hollywood was calling. And so he's going to be stepping away for a few months to go take care of business. And so he is leaving the Ops in their hands. He's leaving it in Hook's hands. And off he went. So Samoa Joe, who came back not that long ago, he walked into Flushing, Queens the other night, had a kick-ass match with Will Ospreay, and now he's leaving yet again. At least this time it's not because of an injury. But he's right back out the door. I would imagine he's probably filming the next season of Twisted Metal, I would think. So yes, we're not going to be seeing Samoa Joe for a few months. But I'm sure Hook will hold down the fort with Bowens and the rest of them as far as the Ops is concerned. And that's what I got. That's what I got for you. Again, I didn't see the main event of Collision. I'm sure I'll check it out at some point. But again, I'm dying over here. So I was like, I can't wait any longer. Because I know exactly what... I guarantee you, Collision tonight had an overrun as well. And I always say this even about 3-hour WWE shows. You have a 3-hour block of television, you don't need a fucking overrun. Okay? That's just obnoxious. Why does a 3-hour show need an overrun? So somebody will let me know if Collision had an overrun tonight. How is Joe on that Twisted Metal show, by the way? I've heard good things about him. It's just too bad they don't use his voice. Was it Will Arnett, I think, is the voice of Sweet Tooth? A 20-minute over... No, not 20 minutes. Did they have a 20-minute overrun on Collision? Oh, my God. It's fucking ridiculous. 17 minutes. It's ridiculous. Hopefully the match at least was worth it. I don't know why the fuck you need a 20-minute overrun on a 3-hour show. It's just ridiculous. Joe is awesome. Well, good. Maybe he'll get more roles in Hollywood. Yeah, Twisted Metal was one of those games that I never played. I never got into the franchise. And I don't think I've ever played a single Twisted Metal game. I know nothing. I don't even know anything about it. I know it has to do with cars. It's about all I know. Take a look at your messages. And then I am going to attempt to get some sleep. Even though I got to go to the mechanic in the morning. I need a new fuel pump. $850. I don't even know if we did $50 tonight. If we did, most of it came from this guy right here. Joseph Stewart, who has assaulted me here with super chats, which I very much appreciate. We're going to run through these here. So I thank you all for hanging out with me on a Wednesday night. He wanted to know if I liked Santino Marella's sell of the Stone Cold Stunner. I don't remember Santino's sell of the Stunner, so I guess the answer is no. Because if I really liked it, I would probably still remember it. Lee Merriweather played Catwoman in the Batman 66 movie. It's her birthday today. Happy 32nd anniversary to the Flintstones movies, or movie, with John Goodman and Fred Flintstone. Well, you can't forget the vivacious Halle Berry. I mean, come on now. I used to take my Flintstones vitamins when I was younger. I always loved the red ones. Those are my favorite. It says a lot of good movies came out in the year 1994. Yeah, actually. I think The Shawshank Redemption came out that year. Forrest Gump. God, what else came out in 94? There was a lot of good stuff that came out in 94. Maybe I should have taken them. Yeah, fuck you. Should have taken my Flintstones vitamins tonight. I could use some pills right about now. Hey, Super Pony, thank you. It says Masters of the Universe movie donuts are available to buy at Krispy Kreme. Had some today and they are really good. Yeah, I don't eat Krispy Kreme. I don't do Dunkin' Donuts anymore. I've never done Krispy Kreme because we never had one near me. It was always Dunkin' Donuts. It's the last thing I need to be eating right now. I am looking forward to the Backrooms tomorrow. I have my ticket. I just hope I'm feeling okay, but I have a ticket for an afternoon showing tomorrow. And I'm very much looking for. It's funny, like, I think it's like a mid-afternoon showing. And when I bought the tickets, the theater, I mean, there were some blocks of seats that were blocked off, but it wasn't too terrible. And I just went back today to check out the seating map, and it's like almost completely sold out, which I guess is a good sign for the movie, but I'm like, fuck. I kind of like it when it's mostly empty, and now it's almost sold out. What is your favorite quote from The Sopranos? Quote? Phil Leotardo. 20 fucking years. That man did 20 fucking years. Two of the cast members of The Sopranos, Christopher and Bobby, were at the Knicks game last week. That's very cool. What are your thoughts on Dominic Mysterio's comments on his recent booking? I did not hear any comments from Dominic about his recent booking, so I have no idea what that's in reference to. You'll have to fill me in. Is it true that Vince McMahon used Dominic to sign with WWE to lure Ray back to the company instead of joining AEW? I've never heard that before. I would have to, like, know what the timeline was on that. Like, when did Dom get signed? Do you remember Dominic appearing on Lucha Underground? I don't. I know Ray was there. I remember that. What is your favorite Tony Soprano moment? It's when he did some dental work on Coco in the restaurant. If you know, you know. a better curb stomp than Seth Rollins has ever delivered in his entire career. Were you a fan of the Sopranos theme song? Love it. Love it. It's a great fucking song. Do you think the Attitude Era had the best theme music? Probably. I mean, I'm a fan of a lot of the Jimmy Hart and Jim Johnston Golden Era themes, but the Attitude Era music was, I mean, Stone Cold, The Rock, all those Undertaker themes, The Brood. I mean, it's hard to beat that. Kane. Which version of the Four Horsemen is your favorite? The one with Barry Windham. Do you remember the WCW faction, the Filthy Animals? I do. Not my favorite faction in WCW, I will say. Not my favorite faction in WCW. Do you remember the WCW faction 3 count? Evan Courageous. Man, I haven't thought about that guy in years. Do you remember the WCW faction, the Revolution? No, I don't. The Deadpool? That's like late stage WCW where I tried to like block a lot of that stuff out. So, no, I don't remember that. The Deadpool with Raven, Vampiro, and the Insane Clown Posse. Do you remember Scott Steiner's valet, Medeja? I do. I do remember Medeja. I do. I don't know what she's up to these days. Let's read the rest of your super chats here. Got a few more to go through. Make sure I don't miss anybody here. Joseph. See, I thought Joseph. I think Joseph was done, and then he kind of dumped a few more on me here. Have you seen this iconic picture of Robert De Niro, Harvey Keitel, Gandolfini, and Chaz Palminteri all together? Well, I mean, unless you attach the photo, I can't tell you for sure. De Niro's performance as Al Capone in The Untouchables. Were you a fan of it? Didn't see it. Hope you're having a great week, Solomonster. Have a good night. Well, Joseph, thank you. Thank you very much. Joseph basically like single-handedly bankrolled this entire stream tonight. So Joseph, you are the man. Says also then, who are your top 10 favorite mob actors of all time? I don't have a top 10. I don't know if you mean people that have played mobsters or actual mobsters, because I'm going to give you one answer, and I'm going to give you the only answer I know, which is Tony Sirico. Paulie Walnuts on The Sopranos, who I believe... what was the family that he worked for? He was mobbed up back in the 70s, and I don't remember exactly which family it was for. But I'll go with Tony Sirico. But Joseph, again, thank you, brother. Appreciate it very much. Let me reload this list here and see who else we got so I don't miss anybody. Oh, we got a bunch more here. This is good. The Uffman. Uffman's always showing up and showing out. May 27th, 1996, Scott Hall said, you want to go to war? You want a war? You're going to get one. That's right. 30 years, brother. 30 years of the NWO. Power Spying Games. Congrats to Crystal Palace for winning the Europa Conference League. That's a pretty cool name, Crystal Palace. I guess that's better than Crystal Meth. I could use some of that right now, because I'm fucking dying here. Chicago 4MBK, feel better. Yeah, thank you. I fucking hate this. Trying to do shows and do streams like this when your head feels like it's going to explode and you're all stuffed up and you're leaking like a fucking faucet. It's not fun. It's not fun. Misfit Wrestling Podcast, New Japan have announced that all AEW content will be leaving NJPW World at the end of June. I didn't even know there was AEW content on there. What AEW content did they have on New Japan World? Leopard Toes, Okada pressed the wrong button on Solo. Bender McSimpson, Dynamite and Collision were great tonight. Love the setup for Ospreay and Omega. And it was cool to see flashbulbs in the crowd again. That might have been the best part of the entire show. Seeing the flashbulbs. Riot Awesome, how's this name for the New Day? The New Way. I said the New Dawn. I mean, I guess the New Way could work. Unless WWE wanted to be petty assholes about it. Say that it's too similar. Dry chicken with a couple of super chats. My shower was very cold after watching TJ in action. You're going to be getting a visit soon from some detectives. Blackheart Leo Rush is creepy and awesome. I hope he gets the character going into Halloween season, or keeps the character going into Halloween season. Misfit Wrestling Podcast. I'm surprised the bizarre NWO story did not get covered on TNT. That's what the sound off is for. We'll be talking about that on Sunday. Super Pony, as a KO fan, I'm getting worried that we have not heard anything about his recovery or potential return. Losing hope. Should I be worried? No. And everybody also say hello to Jesse, the Chi-Town Smark, in the chat. Hi, guys. Hi, Jesse. I'm sick. I hope you're feeling better than I am. Wow. I was just kind of speechless at that moment. I didn't quite know what to say. I'm still kind of speechless. Holy shit. Wow. That was KB Good. 5735 with a $500 super chat bomb. I'm gonna go every fucking holy shit, every fucking sound effect that you can imagine. Oh my god. Says, I've been wanting to send you some loot. This super chat has been brought to you by DraftKings. You deserve it. Is that what happened? Did you win some money through DraftKings? That would be kind of funny if that's where it all came from. Brother, I don't even know what to say other than holy shit and thank you. That, wow. Wow. Yeah, it's funny. There's been some five hundo bombs over the years. They're rare. It's kind of like a unicorn. Like, you don't believe it's real, but then every now and then you kind of see one, or maybe you're sick like I am tonight. Maybe you're just hallucinating. I think for a moment there, I thought I was hallucinating because maybe it was the cold medication that is in me, that is coursing through my veins right now. KB, brother, man, I appreciate that very much. You are the king of the streams this week. Now you can get that, that extra special pump. Yes. Well, I mentioned earlier, I have to go to the mechanic in the morning because I need a new fuel pump because my check engine light went on the other day. And this was after the low oil pressure light came on like a month ago, even though I just got an oil change like 2 months ago. And so that was, thankfully, that ended up just being a faulty switch. They changed the switch for like $100 or whatever it was, and it's been fine. So I see the check engine light, and I'm like, fuck. So I guess, whatever, they check the codes for whatever it means, and they're like, yeah, the fuel pump. They go, when's your inspection? I said, oh, it's about a month away. They go, well, if that check engine light is on, you're not going to pass inspection. I said, well, that's a problem. I said, well, maybe we should get this taken care of. $850 for a fucking fuel pump tomorrow. KB, thank you, brother. Man. Thank you for your podcast for 20. It's almost, believe it or not, it's almost 20 years. Yeah. Endgame says, now who single-handedly carried the show? See, Joseph thought he was wearing the crown tonight, man. He thought he was the king of the ring. And then in comes our brother KB, who's like, not so fast. He swiped that crown right off his head so fast, man. He got rug burn. It is funny how that works. Well, let me see where I left off with these super chats here before we had the bomb dropped on us here. Where did I leave off? Oh, here we go. I think I was about to answer Super Pony's question about Kevin Owens. I would not be concerned. I know he's one of the judges on the new season of LFG. The fact that you haven't heard any updates on him is not really indicative of anything, because I would imagine when the time comes for him to come back, they may well want it under wraps. They may want him to come back in secret fashion, but you got to keep in mind, like the surgery he had, you're going to be out for a while. You're going to be out for at least a year. And I don't even know if it's been a full year yet. I'm pretty sure he didn't actually have the surgery until July of last year. Because remember, there was a period of time that went by where I think there was some swelling and they had to wait for the swelling to go down. And then they went in and did the surgery. And I'm almost positive it was last summer. So I don't even think it's been a full year yet since he had surgery. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. I think he'll be back. He shouldn't rush back. And he's definitely missed on SmackDown, that's for sure. But it doesn't mean he's not coming back. Iron Gaijin, thank you for the $2 to go towards the fuel pump. Thank you, Iron Gaijin. Dried Chicken says, can't wait for the Backroom, Scary Movie, and Obsession. You haven't seen Obsession yet. What are you waiting for? Before they take it out of theaters, you got to go see it in like a packed theater. See, that's a movie where you should see it in like a packed theater. The reactions from the people, I almost want to go see it again. The reactions from the people in the theater during some of the scenes was almost as good as the scene itself. I think it's coming out on digital in like a week. I hope they change that. I really hope they push the digital release back. I want to see how much money this movie can make. Once you release it on digital, you just kill all of the theater business for it. This movie is making more money each passing week than it made the week before, which is like unheard of. Says it's the good son scenario. Save one, let the other one go. Gold Dust or Hardcore Holly? Hardcore Holly, I think if I let him go, I think he'd find a way to kind of cling to the side of the mountain and he would find a way to survive. He's a tough guy. I interviewed him on the Sound Off many years ago. He was a great interview. He was a great interview. And I think I've mentioned this too. Like, I don't remember what year it was that I interviewed him. It might have been about 10 years ago, 10 or 11 years ago. But I'll never forget, like, it was totally unexpected. But after my mom died, he was one of the people I got a text message from. Like an actual, like a text message. It was like a long message too from like him and his wife. Very, very nice message. So I've never forgotten that. We've got Rick S. X. In your opinion, was the lead character in Obsession the villain of the movie? Well, I don't want to get into spoilers. I mean, I could have a whole discussion with you about this. I don't want to get into any spoilers here. I'll just say this. What you believe is probably what I believe. And we'll leave it at that. Brian Finelli just wanted to give you some money for Flintstone vitamins and keep you here a few moments longer. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate the support. Tell me, man, those vitamins are really good. They're a hell of a lot more interesting than just plain old Centrum vitamins. Barry MK, do you think WWE still needs GMs? Both of them act the same and the shows don't fight with each other. I think the GMs are useful. Put it this way. I think, KB, did they cap you? Well, not cap you, but you know what I mean. He says they capped him at 500. Yeah, I think the max single super chat that you can send is 500. See, I don't know though if that means it capped the single super chat amount at 500 and you can't donate any more for the rest of the stream, or just the one donation is capped at 500 and then you can drop like more. I'm not saying you drop another 500. I'm just saying I don't know if 500 is the cap for like all super chats for one person for one stream. I'm not sure how that works. But anyway, on the GM stuff, like if they actually made more use of the GMs in terms of like trades and things of that nature, then they would, I think in that case, they would be a lot more useful. You know what I think they're missing? I think they're missing a good commissioner. There's just certain commissioners in wrestling who know how to get things done. I'm just saying. And there's KB with his $500 bomb. Man, oh man. Thank you again, brother. That's a hell of a way to end the night right there. I'll say that much. Where did we end up on the likes? I'm just curious. And you know what? We didn't hit the goal, but we came a lot closer than I thought we did. I'll tell you what, though. You know what? I know the goal tonight was 5:15, but I got to tell you, I think KB just earned us a round of Be the Booker. I think that it's the least that we can do here. I think we need to absolutely have one round of Be the Booker tonight on KB. I guess courtesy of DraftKings. Let's do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to Be the Booker.
Oh, it's time, all right. It is time. I bet you didn't think we would be doing this tonight. It is time for Be the Booker, which does not always happen here on these Dynamite streams because the Dynamite streams, as compared to Raw and SmackDown, tend to be pretty fucking dead. But we're doing it tonight. That's right. KB for the win. KB, by the way, used to be my favorite toy store. And now you have people that are going to watch and listen to this and go, what the hell's KB? And it's going to make me very sad that they never knew the joy of KB Toy and Hobby. Do they have any toy stores anymore? Because, oh God, that was not my intent. Are you not a Be the Booker fan, KB? We can cancel it. We can cancel it right now. All right, here we go. We got Matt Hardy and we got MVP, the former SmackDown Tag Team Champions. Well, we haven't landed on them in a while here in Be the Booker. They had a good story going on SmackDown for a while there, many years ago. Toys R Us, of course. Yeah, I used to shop at Toys R Us as well, but KB There were things that sometimes Toys R Us wouldn't have, and then KB would. And I forced my mother to take me to KB because it was too far away to walk. It was at the mall. Ah, those were the days. The pure, unadulterated joy of just walking through the automatic doors at Toys R Us. I knew exactly what aisle I had to go to and just running and making a beeline for the aisle with the wrestling figures. Oh, those were the days. Hulk Hogan and Brutus the Barber Beefcake against Matt Hardy and MVP. I feel like MVP would probably do a double leg and shoot on Hogan in this match. It's just a hunch that I have. I take it he's probably not a Hulk Hogan fan. Women's Be the Booker. I take it MVP may not be a fan of hers either. We have Tessa Blanchard. Tessa Blanchard is in Be the Booker. Boy, Tessa Blanchard at one time, I would have had her within 2 or 3 years headlining one of the nights of WrestleMania. Boy, that fall is going to have to be studied. But she is going to be stepping into the ring with Tegan Nox. And I think just as a wrestling match, I have to give that the bell. I have to give that the bell. I think that would be a good match. And in our main event, we have... Are you fucking kidding me? Wasn't he in the main event? When was he in the main event? 2 weeks ago? Yeah, he wrestled Seth Rollins in the main event. Now he's in the main event of Be the Booker. We have Austin Theory. Why is he here? Why is he on my screen? Austin Theory in our main event. We have legends in here. We have a legend right here. Hiroshi Tanahashi against Austin Theory. And I'm going to give it the bell because it's fucking Tanahashi. But if it was anybody else, except Brett, this would have gone a very different way. I don't know. Are we feeling this main event? Tanahashi against Austin Theory? As a main event, I'm not so sure. Not so sure about that. That was not a clean sweep, but... Oh, was it a clean sweep? Oh, it was a clean sweep. Oh. I'm sorry. I told you, I'm kind of out to lunch here tonight. All right, I guess I owe you a sweep then, don't I? There you go. See? Now you can't say I cheated you out of your clean sweep sound effect. And Alex says, Brother Solo, one of my pals, Hirsch, is a huge fan and always misses your streams. Mind giving him a shout out. Much love. Shout out to Hirsch. Why does he miss my streams? If you're a huge fan, you make time for the streams. You tell Hirsch. I expect him in the chat one of these days. But send him my best. Tell him I appreciate all of the support and I appreciate him being a fan. This is all a fever dream, Solo. I feel like I'm dreaming. I feel like I'm seeing things. I'm hoping on Friday I see a good wrestling show. Because that is the next time I'm going to be live with you here on this channel. It will be for Smack. Oh, good. I reminded myself. So on Friday, SmackDown is airing from Barcelona, Spain. And as far as I know, I believe on Netflix internationally, it will be airing at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So if that's the case, I will watch the show earlier. I'm not going to go live immediately after. Probably going to go live around 8 or 8:30 on Friday night. Because if I don't have to go live at 11:30, I'd rather not, especially the way I feel. So just be aware of that. Probably going to go live a few hours earlier than usual for the SmackDown recap on Friday. And then on Sunday, we have this show right here, actually. We have Clash in Italy. And this is coming up on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern time. Same thing. I'll probably go live around 8. I don't think I'm going to go live immediately after. I'd rather eat first. So that will be the plan for Sunday. Plus, of course, because the Clash in Italy show is taking place on a Sunday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, that kind of fucks me because that's usually my drop time for the sound off. So the plan is for the sound off to go up on Saturday at some point. So the podcast is probably going to go up a day early this weekend. So everything, when they have these international shows and these international tours, everything just sort of gets upended. So just be aware of that. Make sure your notification bells are on. That way, if you're not around and you don't know, you'll get an alert and you'll know when I'm live. Justin G says, Super Chat cap 500 a day, 2,000 a week per user. Oh, okay. So it is. Okay. Well, there you go. Now you know. 500 is the capper per day, per person. EJ Slem, would you agree that besides Steamboat and Bruno, Kobashi was one of the only lifelong baby faces in wrestling? I guess he would have been, right? And Speedball. Because I don't see Speedball going heel anytime soon. There's very few people that can claim that. Steamboat is one of the only ones. I guess he would be. I guess Kobashi would be. Dried Chicken says, all wrestlers in Be the Booker have been transferred to the back rooms. Yeah, you don't want to get trapped in the back rooms. That is not what you want to be doing. Get some sleep and make some hot green tea. Hot green tea? I don't have green tea. Sleep doesn't sound too bad, though. I'll try that. What about Tito Santana? I don't know. Was Tito ever a heel in his career, like even in other territories? I mean, I guess in WWE, he was always a babyface. So, yeah, Tito might be on there. Tito was great. Tito is actually underrated, I think, for as great as he was. Anyway, thank you guys for keeping me company and hanging out with me here on a Wednesday night. And for all of the support from Joseph and KB and everybody in between. All you guys, I appreciate it. We can take even a typically slow night and turn it into a fun night. So that's what it's all about. I will hopefully see many of you back here on Friday night. Again, probably around 8 or 8:30 Eastern time. We'll talk SmackDown because I plan on watching it early. So maybe if you want to, you should try to as well. So that way you'll be all caught up on things when I talk about it. And then we got a busy weekend coming up with a podcast. And then Clash in Italy, and then we start all over again. We start with Monday Night Wrestling. The cycle never stops. The cycle never ends. It just continues. It just goes on and on and on. And we got a whole new week coming up next week. So be well. Stay safe. Yep. KB, he swiped the crown from Joseph. Who's going to get it next time? I don't know. But for tonight, we know who it belongs to. Have yourselves a good night. I will see you guys back here for more Sound Off real soon. Until then, take care, guys. I'm off to the back rooms.
Look at Richie Rich over here dropping all this money on me. Hey, I just want you to know, I think you rock. I don't mean the rock, a rock, you rock. And I just wanted you to know that.
Just when I thought I was out, they pulled me back in. We got one last bomb here. We got a bomb from Boots. We haven't gotten a Boots bomb in a while. We got a $100 red bomb from Boots, who says, I decided to take a gamble and signed up for my AEW an hour before Double or Nothing. Was able to watch Dynamite and Collision without commercials and limited commercial break screens. Signed up for the annual subscription. So, number one, Boots, you're the fucking man. Good to hear from you. Thank you, brother. That's number one. Number two, I'm glad you actually brought that up because this is the second AEW pay-per-view on Sunday that I have watched using my AEW, which is really an international service. But there are ways that you can sign up for it. I actually think it's totally worth it. I've used it twice. I've not had any sort of streaming issues or buffering issues or video quality issues. And if you do it month to month, I think it's $20 for the pay-per-views, but you also get access to all of this other stuff. But as you said, it probably is worth it for me to go sign up for the annual subscription because now, and they're adding more pay-per-views now. Now they're up to 10 per year. So when you add it up, an annual subscription actually makes a lot of sense. So I think I may end up doing the same thing. So I'm glad you reminded me to bring that up because my experience so far with my AEW is very positive. And if you are someone who typically buys the pay-per-views, you will save money by doing the annual subscription. So just be aware of that. Boots, you're a maniac. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Have a good night.
Oh, you got me, brother.